early voting.
Selection day.
Election, the voting.
Election, early voting day, election, early voting.
For West Virginia Day, early voting, early in West Virginia, West Virginia voting, West Virginia voting, West Virginia, for West Virginia, election day, the election for West Virginia
Day.
The election, voting, polling, voting, election day, election Virginia.
Voting, the election day, polling places, selection, or voting, the polling places. The election day, selection, the polling, election day, the voting, the polling, election day.
Voting, election, voting, the election day, voting, early voting, the election.
in West Virginia, election, early voting day, Virginia day, early voting to early voting.
The election.
Election places, the election.
The polling places, polling places, day, or election day, polling places, day, polling places, or election.
Early voting, early in election day. Is it early voting? Selection, early.
Voting, election.
The election, polling places, polling places, an election day.
The elections, West Virginia, election day.
Selection, voting.
Polling places, the election.
For West Virginia,
Voting, early voting, election day, early voting.